adding one array indexes, and a solution to the day 4 challenge of the 21-day coding challenge by Lighthouse Labs. I wanted to take a moment and thank everyone for their comments and feedback. This is valuable discussion that helps me hone my skills and prepare content that's relevant to you. A question in particular that I wanted to highlight was kindly left by Vixter. You get better at spotting these problems with experience, but by just looking at the code, I didn't know the answer. I took the code and I copied it into our developing environment, and after testing the code, I took a look at the results. So what's happening here is that our code's being evaluated 3 times. In the first test, all it's checking for is that the return value is an array. This is done by using the array method isArray, then putting in the function that you wrote, and then checking to see whether or not it's an array. The second test checks to see whether or not the array has 3 elements. It's not an array, so it does not have 3 elements. The final test is the logic test. It wants to see if it passes Sally, Tim, or Beth to see whether or not the votes are incremented correctly. Since the value that's passed back is not an array, all these 3 tests fail as well. To correct this problem, I added the return statement beneath the calculation and returned the array opposed to the single array value. Furthermore, because I like shorter code, I moved the return statement outside of the if statements and just consolidated it down to one return statement after all the code had run. With that out of the way, I wanted to focus on adding 1, or numbers to a value. So let's create an array, adding 1, and let's make it equal to 10. We can add 1 to this variable by typing out adding 1 equals adding 1 plus 1. This gives us the result of 11. We can make this a little shorter by typing out adding 1 plus equals 1. And this makes our array equal to 12. We can shorten this even more by just typing out adding 1 plus plus. Even though that's the shortest way of doing things, there's still a purpose to the first 2 methods. One of those reasons is being able to add more than just 1. For example, adding 13. Moving on to array indexes, simply put, to access the first element, refer to the first index, or one less than the element you want to refer to. In this example, I create an array with 3 elements, and to access the first element, the apples, I refer to the 0 index. To access the second element, I refer to the 1, and the third, I refer to the second. Even though it only goes up to 2 indexes, note that the length method still returns 3 elements. So with that, let's move on to the day 4 challenge. So the scenario is, now that you've squashed all the bugs in the city's new voting software, it's time to jump back on the campaign trail. The election is coming up soon. You need to send out reminders to all Codeville citizens to encourage them to vote, but you just don't want to spam people who have already registered. Use JavaScript to remove all registered voters from your contact list. To solve this challenge, we'll need to complete the function register to vote that takes the name of newly registered voter and an array of names of those who have not yet registered to vote. Your function must return an array with the newly registered voter's name removed. The example provides us with the name Bradley and an array of unregistered voters, which also includes Bradley, Jake, Alana, and Stephanie. The output, as we expect, would remove Bradley, so instead we only have Jake, Alana, and Stephanie. To tackle this challenge, I first wanted to take the array of unregistered voters and use the array method for each. For the purpose of this video and the audience I'm serving, I opted instead to use the more beginner-friendly for loop. More on this later. I code the for loop to run through all the elements in the unregistered voters array, and I know I'll need an if statement comparing the name to something. As I mentioned in a previous video, I don't want to modify the array given to us, so I create a new array, updated unregistered voters, and plan to use the array method push to push all the voters who don't match the name into the new array. Finally, I return the new array to complete the challenge. Mistakes and all, you'll notice that I get the comparison operator incorrect. I imagine this is normal of most developers, and being able to identify and correct these issues aids success. I took a peek at the hint section and noticed the challenge to use the filter function. Similar to the for each method I mentioned earlier, the filter is also an array method. Not one to shy away, I googled array filter JavaScript for syntax help. I uncomment the previous work code, copy and paste the example as a comment for reference, and complete the challenge. In brief, the filter array method goes through each element, which I name EL, and if the element does not equal the name, it's not included. It's important to note that the filter method creates a new array, never modifying the original, an important note for those who wish to work well in React. If the for each and filter array methods are way above your head, don't worry about it for now. Solve the challenges using the coding concepts you're familiar with. Take a few days to learn these after the 21-day coding challenge has completed. The benefits are clear, as in this example, we shortened the code from about 6 lines to 1. Hope you enjoyed this video. See you tomorrow.